Today, Baba's 8th of January, and Baba's in many ways continuing systematically to take up and take down concepts that are part of the system of the sannyasis. And this relates to the soul being impacted by karma, because according to the system of the sannyasis, the Vedic traditions, the soul is immune to the impact of karma. And this is why they have rituals of bathing in the Ganges and various other rituals for the purpose of purification. And Baba is saying that won't do any good because the soul is absolutely impacted by karma. The soul becomes pure or the soul becomes impure, and the body you get corresponds to the condition of the soul. And so that's an important point that he's clarifying. And he says that it is impossible for any human being to make a difference to the purity level of any soul in the sense of increasing the level of purity. So no founder of a religion or religious authority can forgive anybody any sins. Only God can do the work of purification of a soul. And so today he's talking about medicine for the soul. And the Brahma Kumari's places are hospitals for healing the souls and universities for educating the souls. And so he comes today as the allopathic doctor. Normally he's a Ayurvedic doctor, but today he comes with his syringe and he injects gyan into the soul. So only a very small needle can hit the soul, which is microscopic, less than microscopic. Okay, so the essence is, sweet children, imbibe the jewels of knowledge and continue to open spiritual hospitals and universities through which everyone can receive health and wealth. So Baba's also talking about the importance of investing in Baba's work. So when you open a center or you open a hospital come university or you sustain one, then you benefit many souls. So you get correspondingly a lot of punya from that. And the question is, which of the Father's tasks cannot be performed by any human being? And the answer, no human being can perform the work of giving injections of knowledge to the souls and making them free from disease from all time. So there are mental illnesses and physical illnesses. And there are also social illnesses. And all of these are because of negative karma. And so the soul has to have healing, has to get healed from that. How could those who believe souls to be immune to the effect of karma give an injection of knowledge? This work is only of the one imperishable surgeon. He gives such medicine of knowledge and yoga that both souls and bodies become healthy and wealthy for half a cycle. So health through yoga, wealth through knowledge. And the song is, "This time is passing by." Om Shanti. Who said that only a short time remains? a lot of time has gone by, and the short period only of a little time, and of the short period, only a little time now remains. People keep counting how long it is before destruction, so then they decide on the date of destruction and count accordingly, but you can't do that. You are now sitting in this old world, and here there is only sorrow, suffering, hardship, difficulties. There is no sign of happiness. Happiness is in the world of happiness, in the golden age. The iron age is called the world of sorrow. And Baba now says, I have come to take you to the world of happiness. So why are you still waiting here? What's in it for us in the iron age? Anything? No. Our bodies are here. Baba's talking about your heart. Why are your hearts attached to the land of sorrow? We have karma with Lokic relatives. That kind of thing will attach to the land of sorrow. Why are your hearts attached to the people of the land of sorrow and to your old bodies? I have come to take you to the world of happiness. And the sannyasis say that happiness of this world is like the droppings of a crow, and this is why they renounce it. Now, you children had visions of the world of happiness, and this study is for the land of happiness, and there is no difficulty in this. All you have to do is remember the Father. And by having this remembrance, you become free from disease, and the lifespan of your bodies will be long like the kalpa tree. So there is this expression, kalpatru body. So, and there is another expression, kanchan body, the golden body. And so these are expressions that refer to deeply, it refers to imperishable bodies. And the bodies of the golden age are such that they would carry on almost indefinitely unless you got the idea to leave them. Because you don't leave your body because your body stops working or gets sick or something like that. You leave it because a new one is coming, so you have to go to the new one. That the duration of this human world tree is 5,000 years. And in that, there is happiness for half the cycle and sorrow, hardship for half the cycle. And you have seen sorrow for half the cycle. And the Father says, if you want to go to the pure world, you have to become pure. Shrimat says, stop exchanging poison, that means sexual activities. Imbibe yoga and knowledge. The more jewels of knowledge you imbibe, the freer you will become from disease. The Father has explained that this is a spiritual hospital and also a university. He doesn't often call it a temple, right? No. So what do you do in a hospital? You heal people or you get healed. And what do you do in a study? In a university, you study or you teach. And what do you do in a temple? You hope. You hope. Bhog, you offer bhog. You eat food. So, but you eat food in a home, right? Yeah. The Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, comes and opens a spiritual hospital and university. There are many hospitals in the world. but nowhere is there a combined hospital come university like this one. There are combined hospitals, universities, but not for souls. Here it is a wonder that you have a hospital come university. That is, you receive health and wealth together. So why not become alert and take advantage of these treasures? Why are you putting it off, saying tomorrow, tomorrow, today, tomorrow? Because destruction will come suddenly. I saw the latest thing in bombs. Have you seen? Normally if you want to send a nuclear bomb to someone, you send it up in space and then down again, and it can be detected by radar. So now they have a new type which doesn't go up, it just goes along, and it doesn't get detected by the radar, and it travels at 4,000 miles an hour. So that's a bit fast. So you can reach anywhere in about an hour or two, because the whole Earth is 25,000 miles, right? All the way around. So anywhere is about 10,000 miles from wherever you happen to be. So you can take out the whole world in 2 hours that way without telling anybody. So boom, all of a sudden, are we dead? Yes. So Baba gives you the most elevated Shrimat. You can explain to the government, Indian government, that the Unlimited Father opens such a hospital and university at this time where everyone receives both health and wealth. The government also opens hospitals and universities, but you can explain to them that nothing can be achieved by opening those physical hospitals. They have existed for half the cycle, and there have continued to be patients also. But this is a spiritual hospital and university, and here people can become ever healthy and wealthy for 21 births. So we will have schools in the Golden Age, but no hospitals, no prisons, no court system, no police, no taxation. You won't go to work. So explain to the education and health ministers that the Unlimited Father has opened both, a combined hospital and university. And we are advising you to do the same so that people can benefit. So this is a very interesting point, which is a bit secret, but a religion only really becomes a known thing when it becomes the religion of state. Because there were many people who are like founders of religions, but their religions never became a religion of state, so they never became big and influential, like little ones. So I think Baba is saying, if the Indian government takes up BK, then it goes everywhere. So let's see. However, those illnesses have continued from the time the kingdom of Ravan began. In the beginning, they used herbal medicines. Anyway, medicine now is all still derived from herbs, but they patent it and make lots of money from it. And there's also, they make chemical medicine based on those herbs. And now there are many allopathic medicines. This one is the imperishable surgeon who gives you imperishable medicine. So it is said the knowledge is imperishable. And this is why it is said, when the Satguru gives the ointment of knowledge, ointment is actually the eye lotion, a little, in allopathy, they put honey in your eyes, right? Have you heard that? Yeah, if you put honey in your eyes, you get good, healthy eyes. So this in your eyes, then the darkness is dispelled, because if people have eye problems, then they need certain eye medicine. So Shiv Baba puts eye medicine in the blind and deaf and unaware people, and the darkness of ignorance goes away. Only the spiritual father gives you souls injections of knowledge. There cannot be anyone else who injects into souls. They say that souls are immune to karma. And you can explain that you can have an expenditure of hundreds of thousands of rupees for those hospitals and universities, but here there's no question of expense. All you need is 3 feet of land so that you can explain to anyone who comes that remember the Father and you will become ever healthy. And by knowing the cycle, you will become a ruler of the globe. Those who are wealthy will open big hospitals and universities, whereas the poor will open smaller ones. The government opens many of those. Nowadays, they even put up tents to make schools for children. And they have 2 or 3 sessions in a day. That means they will divide up the pupils into groups of like 50, 60 at a time. And there'll be morning school, middle of the day school, and evening school, afternoon and evening. And so the kids only come for 1 time, but the teachers have to teach 3 times. And this is because there is not enough space to have schools for the children, and they don't have enough money. There is no question of expense here. You can take whatever place you find, and you don't need to keep any equipment there. This is a very simple matter. Both men and women can open these. And the Father says, you too can look after them, open them and look after them. Otherwise, some people thought you open a BK center and then you have to call a BK sister to look after it. But Baba says, you can do it. Those who do something, you make an investment in Baba's task, you will receive something from that. You will receive the return of that. You remember the other day I was talking about Shiv Baba is reciprocal, because there is this law of reciprocity and you can't get around it. It's as incontrovertible as the law of gravity. You give one, you get one. You don't give any, you don't get any. Many will be benefited. The unlimited Father gives you Shrimat for you to become elevated. And there are many who listen to this, but they don't do it. Why? It's not in their fortune. So it's predestined what you will do, how you will make effort, that you will come to Baba, but still you have to do. You receive health and wealth from the Father. Baba has come to give you the kingdom of paradise. You will receive palaces studded or inlaid with diamonds and jewels. There was the kingdom of Lakshmi and Narayan in Bharat, and the Father must definitely have given them this inheritance. Now in the Iron Age, there is nothing but sorrow, hardship. I have to establish the Golden Age. He's fixed in drama, he has no choice, he has to do it. When people open hospitals, etc., then they have an inauguration. And the Father says, I inaugurate heaven. You now have to become worthy of heaven. Worthy of heaven means you have to have all the qualifications for living there. You become worthy, qualified, competent, cycle after cycle. And this is nothing new. It has been seen that many poor people come here. Baba says, I am the Lord of the poor. Wealthy people have a lot of money, and so they think they are sitting in heaven. Bharat is poor, and within that too, the Father comes and uplifts those who are very poor. The wealthy ones are still sleeping. Baba is teaching you so much knowledge and yoga. It is Baba who gives each of you the third eye. And the third eye is the perception of the whole cycle. The other people are in darkness. No one knows the beginning, the middle, the end of the drama. They have forgotten the Purifier Father. And for Shiva, they say that he is present in every particle. And you know that it is now the time of settlement for everyone. Everything will burn and be destroyed, and I will then take everyone back with me. I have come as your guide. You are the Pandav army. Those people take the devotees on physical pilgrimages, and you have been going on them for birth after birth, but this is a spiritual pilgrimage. You don't have to walk and move around here. The Father says simply, remember me. Get up at night and remember me. Connect your intellects in yoga to me. Conquer sleep, and you will continue to come closer. Those Brahmins are born physically, born through the womb, whereas you Brahmins are born through the mouth of Brahma. And you are now on the spiritual pilgrimage. You have to practice purity. And those Brahmin priests are themselves impure, so obviously they cannot purify anyone else. But you have to stay in purity. Only such pure, that is celibate Brahmins stay in the sacrificial fire of the knowledge of Rudra. That's a Madhuban. Those Brahmins live in temples, and because they are called Brahmins, they're allowed to touch the idols of the deities and bathe them, but in fact they are impure. All other people who go to the temples are not allowed to touch the idols because they're not Brahmins. The Brahmins are given a lot of respect, but they too are impure and they indulge in vice. There may be some who are celibate. The Father comes and explains, a true Brahmin uplifts 21 generations. So if a Kumari uplifts others, she would also uplift her parents. This mother and father teach you so that you can become masters of heaven for 21 generations. So this belief that a Kumari or a Brahmin uplifts someone for 21 generations, Baba explains what it means. You children know that the Father is incognito. Shiv Baba tells us all the secrets through Brahma. So secret means he explains the symbolism. It's Raz. So Raz is not secret like we usually think of the word secret, but it's like the meaning of things that are incomprehensible to people who don't have the key. This Dada used to have a business and so on, and now at the end of the last of his many births, Shiv Baba has come and entered him And he gives us this knowledge through him. So Brahma Baba's body is the chariot, and Shiv Baba is the driver of the chariot. The incorporeal, this is a reference to the Gita, right? The incorporeal Supreme Soul explains that this chariot, this body, has been impure for many births. So that means he uses the soul of Brahma in the body of Brahma and makes him do whatever he wants him to do. For example, Shiv Baba has to speak using the language of Brahma Baba. So the language is connected with the soul, not the body, right? Because the soul functions through the brain. So it's very interesting to see how Shiv Baba overshadows the soul of Brahma and makes him do what he wants him to do, body and soul. So he says this chariot has been impure for many births, and he is the first one to become pure. He is the closest. He does not say that he is God. He says, this is the end of the last of my many births. Thank you. Hot. Good. It will work. It's okay. I am now in my period of retirement and I am impure. So there are these 5 stages in a traditional Indian life, and the last one, retirement, preparation for death. And if you survive that, then you have sannyas, which is you die before you're dead. Basically, I am now in my retired time and I am impure. Baba has entered this one. Shiv Baba has entered this one. And that father now says, you do not know your own births, but I know them. And I tell you who you are. It enters your intellects that only Shiv Baba, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is the purifier. He is the father, the teacher, and also the guru. He explains to you the secrets of the beginning, the middle, and the end of the whole drama. The secrets, the meaning, the details. You know that Baba will take you back with him. And by taking advice from that father, Shrimat, that father, teacher, and guru, you will claim a high status. He explains to you so well. Some imbibe this, follow Shrimat, and claim a high status. Those who do not accept Shrimat do not claim a high status. Baba says, remember Shantidam, the soul world, and remember Sukhdam, the world of happiness, the golden age, and continue to forget, that means let go of, the land of sorrow, the iron age. Consider yourselves to be bodiless souls. We are now returning home. Baba has come to take us back, and everyone must repeat their part. Every soul is an imperishable actor. Total annihilation doesn't happen in this world. There's always some survivors. This is the land of sorrow, and then you will go to the region of peace and the world of happiness. Continue to rotate the discus of self-realization in your consciousness, practice purity, and the boats of your life will cross to the other side. You are conquering death. And most of the stories about death involve a boat where you are being carried to the other side. And there is a river which in Western philosophy is called the Styx. And so you get in the boat and someone carries you across the Styx. So what we have to do is cross from one body to another, voluntarily, consciously, and without getting overwhelmed. So this is called you are conquering death. There will be no untimely death. Just like a snake sheds its old skin and take a new one, you will also shed your skins, your bodies, and take new ones. You have to create that stage here. Practice again and again, leaving your body. I am now going to leave this body and go to my sweet home. Death cannot come and consume me. Have you had near-death experience? It's useful because then you find out whether you're afraid of it or not. In fact, the sannyasis should not give the example of a snake because they don't believe in doing a practice to reincarnate. They believe in doing a practice to go to nirvana and not come back. Then there is the example of the bees, the buzzing bees. This also applies to the family path. So the sannyasis belong to nirvruti. And then, there's two kinds of Hinduism. One is the nirvruti and one is the pravruti. So this is for pravruti, the family. So this bees, says buzzing moths, but it's bees actually. And they say that they can give liberation in life in a second, just like King Janak received it. So the sannyasis tell this story, but they are copying you. They say you're copying them, but they're copying you. Because for Jivan Mukti, this applies to a couple. It doesn't apply to a sannyasi, because Jivan means life in the family, in the world, business, all of that, not just being alive. So a sannyasi cannot give Jivan Mukti. So the father says, now return home. This is why you need to also be very clear about what is the meaning of detachment and renunciation. It means that you have everything, you have everyone, you have money, this, that, but you are not under its influence. Whereas the sannyasis assume that if you have it, it will contaminate you, so therefore they renounce. And then religious people try and live with as little as possible to prove to themselves and other people that they have renounced, but they may still be attached, because there's a story of King Janak where the sannyasi came to test whether or not he was detached and in Jivan Mukti. And the sannyasi had a stick. And so he was sitting with King Janak, and there was a fire in the palace. And someone came to tell King Janak, but the sannyasi didn't know what the message was. So he just said, okay. Then someone else came more urgently with the same message, and he said, okay. And then the messenger came, okay, you have to leave now. So he left. And he said, come on, to the sannyasi, we got to go now. And the sannyasi said, well, what about my stick? That means even he'd given up everything, but he couldn't give up his stick. And Janak, he had Jivan Mukti, gave up everything when the right moment came. So this is why Baba says the sannyasis don't understand liberation in life. The father says, now return home. Remember me, and your sins will be resolved. Otherwise, there will be a lot of punishment and your status will be destroyed. So your sins has to do with your emotional involvement with anything that you can perceive materially. If you remember anyone at the end, there will, of course, be reincarnation here. This is health through yoga and wealth through knowledge. This is called liberation in life in a second. So you don't need to waste your money or to wander around. That means going on holidays and getting lots of stuff, and what you don't need is called wasting money and wandering around. This is why you have to explain to the health and the education ministers, tell them, open this hospital come university and you will benefit a great deal. So those who do something, that means those who invest in Baba's work, will definitely receive the return of it. It is the duty of the wealthy to uplift other wealthy ones. Interesting, huh? Usually they say the wealthy have to uplift the poor, but he says the wealthy must uplift other wealthy ones. That means spiritually, the people that you communicate this to will be your people who you encounter, your social group, your professional group, whatever. So who meets wealthy people is other wealthy people, because they're like a club. Only the poor claim the inheritance. And it applies to the millionaires, the saying that some people's wealth will stay buried underground, some will be looted by the thieves, some will be burned, some will be taken by the government. But what goes with you is what you invest in God's work. At the end, when the fire takes hold, everything will be destroyed. So why not do something before the destruction takes place so that you too can receive a status? Everyone has to die. And there has to be the end of the drama. So Baba explains to you so well. The rivers continue to flow everywhere, but this Brahma is the Brahmaputra river. So the biggest one. Mama is Saraswati, secret river, and all the rest are the Ganges of knowledge. How can the Ganges of water purify anyone? That is not the real meeting. So there is a place called Allahabad, where there is somewhere called Triveni Sangam, where the three rivers meet. So the Ganges, the Saraswati, and what's the other one? Jamuna? Allahabad has, since 2018, been renamed as Prayagraj, which is one of its ancient names. And it's officially now Prayagraj. The Kumbh Mela is there, right? So Baba says that is not the real meeting. The Kumbh Mela is not the real meeting. This is the real meeting. This is the true meeting where the human souls meet God. And this is why there is the saying that the souls were separated from the Supreme Soul for a long time. And ultimately, there was a beautiful meeting through the broker. So the meeting of human souls with God is now taking place. And God has also taken a human body on loan with a soul in it as well. How else would he teach you? So he is called God Shiva. He enters the body of this one and gives knowledge. Saraswati is called the goddess of knowledge. Who gave her knowledge? The ocean of knowledge. You also have that knowledge number-wise according to the efforts you make. So imbibe this knowledge and follow Shrimat. Everything depends on purity. And it is because of this that the innocent ones are assaulted. Actually, the saying goes that the defenseless ones were assaulted. That means the sexual harassment and assault of women, and particularly young girls. So Draupadi called out, and she was saved from being stripped for 21 births. It is said in the Gita that I also uplift the sadhus, but the sadhus don't tell anybody about this. They just leave out the bits that compromise their position when they're teaching the Gita. So that's why you have to read it yourself to find out what's in it. So you know that the whole world runs on bribery at this time and corruption. And this is why everything is going to be destroyed. So the whole financial system of the world is run by imaginary money, right? Promises, empty promises. So you can be a billionaire one day and nothing the next day. Those who are to claim the inheritance will do so. Many children say to Baba, it would be so good if I came from a poor family. Partly because in a poor family, if you go away from them, it's actually better because it's less expense. In a wealthy family, they want to control you and they don't let you do what you want. So they say the wealthy ones don't allow us to come out. Baba, it would be so good if we had remained Kumaris and not got married. The married women have to come down the ladder. So they go up the ladder of sexuality, then they have to come and become pure afterwards. So they would prefer to stay virgins. But anyway, it's okay. Half Kumaris are the married women who become celibate. Baba says, claim your inheritance. It doesn't take long for people to die. There are many calamities. And just today, there was a big problem in Pakistan where there was too much snow and it killed lots of people. So the extreme weather is happening all over the place. Too much water, too much snow, too much wind, too much waves, too much drought, too much this. So there are many calamities. Simply consider yourselves to be souls and remember me, your father. Your 84 births have now ended, and now you have to return home. Or would you still rather stumble around here? Manmana Bhav, remember one alone, perceive the mind of God with your mind. And Madhyaji Bhav, remember Vishnu. So make yourself perfect in mind, words, action, and the Gada. Nobody thinks about that, but willpower, whatever you want to do, assert that. And Vishnu also means you're part of the family, the rosary of the beads, and androgynous and double crown. Forget the inheritance of Ravan. The inheritance of Ravan is the physics, 5 vices, and weapons, basically. Ravan curses you. And the father says, if you become my children, you will claim the inheritance. If you do not follow Shrimat, how will you claim the inheritance? Continue to open these spiritual hospitals. There are areas of vacant land, and someone could rent it to you, and there can then be a lot of benefit also. Acha, to the sweetest, beloved, long lost, and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada, And the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children, and spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. In essence, for dharana, in order to come close to the father, stay on the pilgrimage of remembrance, the spiritual pilgrimage. Stay awake at night, means get up while it's night, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and definitely focus your attention on the pilgrimage. Secondly, become a true Brahman and uplift 21 generations. Rotate the discus of self-realization, and in order to conquer death, remove your attachment from that old skin. You have to again and again and again, I am not this body. This is just my current vehicle that I drive around in. And the blessing, make your attitude means vritti, which is more like perception, how you perceive. Your vision, which is also how you perceive, how you look at people. Your words and your actions, royal. So royal means that it's very refined with spirituality, and become like Brahma Baba, the way he looks at people, treats people, talks, etc. Follow Brahma Baba in the royalty, the refinement that you saw in his words, activity, face, and behavior. Brahma Baba never focused on trivial matters. He never spoke ordinary words. Ordinary means like gossip or something like that. But every word was yukti-yukt. It had a lot of meaning. Here's one example. His daughter, in the very beginning, his daughter wanted to make him promise to take her with him in the car. And he wouldn't do that. And she got very upset with him because she was very attached to him. But the thing is, she was pregnant and she gave birth at the time when the car ride was scheduled, so she couldn't. And he knew in advance, so he wouldn't. But he didn't say exactly what the reason was, but he just said, if it is in drama, like that. And she didn't like that. She wanted him, promise. So you will sometimes encounter that. Someone will make you promise you have to do this and that, and don't. So every word of Brahma Baba was yukti-yukt, and there was no grossness. His words were had the vibration of the avyakta vibration and good feelings, good wishes. His attitude, his perception of souls was always with good wishes and pure feelings. He saw everyone in their angelic form. He gave everyone happiness, benefit with his actions, and he received happiness. So follow him in that way, and you will be called equal to Brahma Baba. And the slogan is, the sign of elevated fortune is that you are swinging in the swings of love instead of working hard. That means you are working hard, but you don't feel like it's hard work because you're doing it for love. Om Shanti. So the experience the stage of being merged in love. When someone is in love with another person, then you can feel that that one is in love from their face, their eyes, and their words. You can feel that this one is enamored. In the same way, when the Father's love is emerged in you, that means when you are feeling the love that you have for Baba, then your words will make others melt. So if you have love for Baba, theoretically, it won't. But if you feel it, then you'll speak from that feeling and it will reach. Om Shanti. Do we have any questions?
Could you please recommend a good translation of Gita that we can use to read and study?
The reason why I like that particular translation is that he doesn't make much in the way of comments for the purpose of getting you that. That's the one. He doesn't make comments to make you believe one thing or another. He just translates it as it is. And he also gives you the Sanskrit dictionary with many alternative words that if you prefer one word over another, then he gives his version. And then, you have that freedom, much greater freedom of interpretation with this translation than any other that I've come across, where it's more imposed. You have to think this way and not that way. So this is one I like. And this one was also used by the opera of Philip Glass called Satyagraha. And that is, this whole thing is sung in Sanskrit, but it's from this translation. So where you get translations by particular gurus or someone who is wanting to express a particular philosophical position or tradition, they kind of push it on you. And also in this one, it's fairly clear that Krishna is not the speaker of the Gita, because there are different epithets which are given to Krishna, and most of those epithets correspond to Shiva and not to Krishna. So I like that one. Yes, I was talking about attachment. And when I was telling the story about the sannyasi who visited King Janak and was attached to his stick, and that means he has an emotional involvement with it because he could always get another one. His stick is pretty much all over the place. There's sticks around the place. But no, he wanted that stick. And King Janak was able to walk out of his palace with all the things and just let it go, just like that. And, this story has a symbolic component, because if you are the king, the master of your life, and you're going to die, there will be signs of your death beforehand. Even if you die from a car crash, when you're having a car crash like that, time slows down. And so that your 1 second becomes like quite long. And so you have enough time to set your consciousness and know, okay, now I'm going to die, so I have to go. But people who don't do that, they can't die properly because they're tied up in the attachment to the body. So people who are afraid of death, they're afraid because they don't know death. And so they're afraid of disappearing, losing their existence. So people are very attached to their existence. But the difference for us is we know that our existence is soul. That's my existence. I'm a soul. But for people who don't know that, they have this emotional involvement with their existence as a body. And there are a lot of people who really, really believe that. And then there are many people, they think they have a soul, but their emotional involvement is with the body. They still think this is me and I have a soul somewhere around. But what Baba is teaching us is, no, you are the soul. This is a leather bag containing warm mud. It's not your existence, you know. And the framework is made by some sticks called bones. And if you didn't have bones, it would be just a floppy leather bag with some soup in it. It's not very nice. So he will enable us to have a relationship with our body such that you get it, that this is not you. And so then you have to really shift the consciousness.
How do new souls who come in copper and iron ages experience soul consciousnness differently from those from golden age?
I don't know. I don't think that souls who do not come in the golden and silver age will come and study this. And in that case, they would not be able to study about soul consciousness to the point of understanding it according to the way that we've been studying it. So we can't say.
But they'll still be soul conscious when
Maybe.
they first came.
Maybe. I think they can, it's possible they can believe in the soul, but I don't think they will have the exposure to the study and the amount of study and the details to be able to get what we are studying to get in terms of soul consciousness. But I think that a lot of people would say, I'm soul conscious, but they would not be talking about the same thing as what we're talking about. And it's definite that the souls who come, whenever they come, they pass through Sato, Rajo, Tamo. And so whenever their first birth is, they're pure, in the sense of it's the beginning, they're not corrupted, they don't have a set of sins and so on, but they would not be conscious that they are a soul and this is their body, because this information comes only at the end. And people belong to different religions. And so these religions have ideas, and the different religions are based on the other religions that came before, which is why Baba says the Gita is the seed, the mother of all the scriptures, because everything is derived from it, but they don't understand it. And so the derivations are based on an interpretation where you don't understand it. And it's only in the confluence age where Baba comes and says, I am the speaker of the Gita, so I'm going to tell you the Gita in such a way that you do understand it. And then we gradually get it, you see, because this study, I mean, people think BK study is very simple, but it's not. It's very, very high level material, but it's put in quite simple terms, but doesn't mean it's actually simple. And so it takes many, many years to actually grasp what he's telling. And you have to really study it, really churn it, because you cannot just get it at first go, because it's heavily encrypted. And it takes churning to decrypt it. And so if people just take it at face value, they're getting like candy at the candy store. This is very nice, you know, toli and blessings and all that. But it's a very superficial format of what this really is. So some people will study it very deeply and other people will take it at other levels. But that's the way it is. It's number wise. He always says that. And he does say that eventually everyone on earth will have exposure to this. but it doesn't mean that they will have enough time to study it as we have been doing, and that they will probably look at it in the context of what they already know. And the point about our mandate to get this knowledge accessible to everyone is that everyone will have enough information to be able to understand that they can connect with God. Because they need to have an encounter with God in order to return to their original condition. And, we don't really have very many details about how this happens with people who are from other religions or who come late in the cycle, because he's trying to get us to become what we were originally and which we forgot, which we don't understand, and we have to understand it. And we have to understand philosophy of karma. We have to understand soul. We have to understand predestination. We have to understand paradox, and it's quite deep, and it takes time. And so we're on the way. Yeah.
So the next question is interesting. Living in Laukik family, it means that you are a trustee for them? Question mark. Or just purely settling our karmic accounts?
There are many things. Everywhere you are in a context. You could be in the context of a Laukik family. You could be all by yourself. You could be in the context of a center. You could be in Madhuban where there's tons and tons of people. There are many different contexts, and all of these contexts contain your karmic accounts that you have to settle. Whether it's in any of them, you will find your karmic accounts to settle. And when you've settled your karmic accounts, you can be anywhere in any environment with any people, and it's fine because you don't have any drama with them. And so that's a kind of jivan mukti, which he wants us to be able to have. And also, a lot of people, very large number of people, they come in this knowledge, they're already married, they already have children, in-laws and everything, and they work, and so they have money, and they become Baba's children, but they can't, just like a sannyasi, they can't leave their children and wives and everything. They have to stay there, practice their spiritual practice, and consider their wealth as belonging to Baba, and use their wealth and function in their family according to Baba's directions. This is what is meant by a trustee. And this is the case for the majority of BKs. If we say there are 1 million BKs, more or less, give or take, I don't know exactly how many, there are about 10,000 who are called teachers, the sisters. And then there are other people who live in the centers, but who are not teachers. So a teacher means someone with administrative responsibility in the organization. That's the meaning of teacher. And they may or may not teach, but they should. And then there are many places where there are brothers who are in the centers. They may have administrative responsibility. They may be in the family and still do a lot of work for the BK organization. Well, the good example of that is Brother Ramesh Shah, who is married with Usha, and both of them since passed on. But Baba would very often talk about that this is what I mean by a trustee, and totally dedicated to Baba, still living in the family. And And now you see we're in 2022, and these descriptions and setups that Baba had created at that time applied in the social system of India. And then when you want to transfer that or translate it into another culture, another century, then you have to consider the fundamental principles of what the Gyan is in terms of how you apply it day-to-day life. And then you have to interpret it for your situation. And we have enough information to be able to do it such that you're really doing it according to his intention. Yeah. Explain the perfect stage, karma, teet, avyakt. What is the right order? There's no particular right order. You know, when you study the avyakt Murlis in particular, there are many where he talks about this. Karma teet is when you have finished your karmic accounts and you are free. And avyakt is when you're in that stage where people can really perceive that angelic form, and you are like really close to that stage. It's a very high stage. And the perfect stage is the same. You know, all of these are different words for different angles on the same thing. Can you share a near-death experience? Well, I can, but can you make it happen? I would not suggest it. Because you might get a bit too near and actually die, and then you won't be able to tell the story. But a near-death experience is where you really could die, or you're about to die, or maybe you leave the body for a second or two and come back again, or a situation where you should die, but you didn't die by some miracle, but you're facing it, you see. And you can't make it happen because then it's in your control. So you do not have control of your death. And this is a very important thing to come to terms with, that it has control over you. But what you have to do is take away its power to control you by your independence of death. And to be independent of death means you have to really be aware that your existence has no connection with your body. It's the soul. And for me, I had a near-death experience where I was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean drowning, but didn't drown. So that was good. I was in Titanic? No, but it could have been. No, that was Atlantic, yeah. Anyway, what I experienced was, okay, you could die, but it's not time yet. And I also experienced that I wasn't afraid. So I thought, that's interesting. Okay, since it's not time, and since I'm not afraid, we got that, now we have to get out of this situation. So it was a fairly difficult and dangerous thing, but I made it. So here I still am.
Was it a rip current?
Yeah. Yeah. The riptide.
So I'm just thinking that chances are that I may not be karmatit before the destruction happens. So, and I might not get a moment before I know there's a nuclear bomb initiated. So do we get a second before we know, or what is that? How does that look like? Like how does it look like, and how do I prepare myself, or is it just going to be just?
Well, there are a few things. One is that when you're at such a time as a yogi, you will know in advance. you will know. And you may not be confident at the present time of reaching that stage, but, you know, between now and then, there are many things. And it is possible for anyone who is Baba's child and who is sincere to get to a point where they are actually able to take the exam, because that's the exam. And in my experience of, like, for example, right before a major earthquake in California, we have a lot of opportunity for practicing. One thing we know is all the birds stop singing a little bit beforehand. That animals are very connected to these things in advance. I saw some story about elephants who had been heavily chained, and they just broke the chains and made off when there was about to be a tsunami or a big flood or landslide or something. They know. Thailand, yes. Mm. And so we are perfectly capable by being in a subtle stage of consciousness of feeling it beforehand. And I've experienced this, that you have at least 1 second, you know it's coming, set yourself, and boom, be ready. And I remember when we were in a very major earthquake in Los Angeles, which happened at 4:30 in the morning. So we were in Amrit Vela. And there was a few of us in the center. It was a very big one. And I felt it before, and everybody looked at me, and I said, don't move. And everything shook quite a lot, and lots of things fell down, including the chimney and everything. And freeways came down, and lots of damage was done. But it was like the right place to be, in Baba's room. And in many instances where there are huge calamities, it's Baba's room which survives. Sister Rajini in Japan had been a very big earthquake there, and Baba's room survived. In where there are big tsunamis and things, some places, Baba's room survived, or churches survived. And because there's a vibration there. And, you know, and when there's fire, it'll take one house and leave the next one and take the next one after that. It's a vibration. And it's a karma, and it's completely impossible to quantify it or calculate it in advance. But you can see the pattern of what happens and why it happens and where it happens and to whom it happens and what happens. And even some BKs who had been heavily struck by COVID, they got the thought what to do to be able to get the necessary healthcare or whatever. And of course, many have left the body in COVID, but many have overcome it. And the very famous story about the young Kumari who was in the chemical explosion that happened, where was it? Bhopal. And she was impressed in the mind, close all the windows, put the fan on, drink lots of water, get under the bedclothes and go to sleep. So this strange instructions that just flooded her mind, and she was the only survivor because she did exactly what was needed. And Baba has said in some Murlis, your feet will tell you where to go. So because it's like he can take over, because when you're in that situation, everything depends on your connectedness, your karma, your drama, your destiny, etc., etc. And don't worry. Because if you worry, then you take charge of your existence. But if you let go and let God, as they say, let go and let God, then it's fine. So we should not get into what if, and we should not doubt. There may be many, many reasons to doubt that maybe I won't make it, but he says no. Take the position that you will make it and aim high. You know, he always says you become Lakshmi and Narayana. Of course, there'll only be 1 or 8, but aim for that anyway and assume the best, not assume the worst. Prepare for the worst, but assume the best. That's a reasonably sensible policy. Okay, this is something Carmen is saying, and I didn't think I didn't love God. I announced I didn't love God. And she said, of course you do. Look at what you're doing. So would you comment on the feelings you have now regarding your work? I don't think about it. I just do what I do. Don't you? And but I said it because a lot of people think that they have to feel Baba's love all the time because that's how it's presented. And actually, you remember I mentioned a few times, love is a verb. It's doing. And if you're doing something which is beneficial for someone, that's love. And if you're doing someone that massages their ego, that's stupidity. Well, a lot of people find themselves in that situation, but eventually you get wise and say, okay, no need to do that. It may even be a sin. But the thing is, what happens is you have to understand your relationship with another human sister or brother. And that is love. That means do things that are of benefit and regard, see them in their good stage, and make your give and take balanced. In normal dysfunctional relationships, it tends to be one who dominates the other, and a victim-predator relationship where the predator is always accusing the victim of not loving them, and the victim doesn't realize they're being manipulated. Accuse the victim of not loving. And what that means is you're resisting my efforts to take total possession of you and destroy you. And then they say you don't love them. But they use different words because of selfishness. And so we need to understand the game and play according to what's really going on, which is different from what people say is going on. And that requires power of discrimination. So all these different practices that Baba has given us to do, they are like thorns. And if you are doing everything what Baba says and somebody has an objection because they're not able to take you over and they don't like it and give you a hard time, you just have to say, have a nice day. Enjoy your karma.
But in the name of benefiting someone.
You know, as a parent, you have to give structure. And structure means you set the boundaries. And if the child doesn't like the boundaries, that doesn't mean that you're overcorrecting by setting the boundaries. People don't like being not allowed to do what they want. But you see, freedom means your freedom stops where somebody else's begins. And what happens is people's interpretation of freedom is I can do whatever I want, whether it invades your boundaries or not. And your response is, no, you can't. This is the boundaries. And boundaries are negotiated and set, you see. And so it's all about diplomacy. Yeah. Study diplomacy. That's what this is. This is what I will do. This is what I won't do. Take it or leave it. And you see, it's business. A relationship is business. What the person would lose by getting rid of you outweighs what they gain by their little bit of selfishness. So they will go along with it. Especially when you stay in your power. When you do what the conditioning says, which is give away your power, it gets into a mess because they make you feel guilty. And that's called manipulation. And because the conditioning condones the manipulation, the social conditioning, you get moral confusion. And so Baba is giving us enough information and enough experience to come out of that moral confusion. So you set your boundaries and that's that. You know? But this is where you get this real conflict between conventional morality, toxic conventional morality, and Srimad. You see, because God is saying this is how you live on earth with other human beings successfully. And they may or may not agree. They may or may not like it. They may or may not be willing to pay the price. But God is a pretty capable authority on the laws that govern human interaction. And so if you recognize that this is correct, then you have a right to insist on it. And even if people oppose you, I was looking at a documentary yesterday. I will tell you what it is. And it's quite an interesting description about how this thing works and how it creates a lot of social damage. And that if you want to stop that social damage, they will do everything possible to take you down, take you out, whatever. And this is a story of a person who made it, you know, but under extreme opposition. I see. And it's just a phenomenon in the human story that when things go wrong and you have somebody who points it out or is a whistleblower or flags it up or wants to do something about it, they're always targeted, severely targeted. Look what happened to Aristotle, the foundation of Western philosophy. They murder him. You know? Jesus Christ, another example. Buddha, he got a very hard time. You know, Brahma Baba had an extremely hard time. Shi Baba says, I'm invisible, so he's not going to have a hard time. But everybody else has a hard time. It's a phenomenon in the human story. But the purpose is that you need to understand that standing up for what is right is correct, and the price you pay is high. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, Om Shanti to everyone.